If you listen to the show, you already know that we cannot exist without our sponsors. They are the ones who make things happen behind the scenes. So let's acknowledge Fuji Sports. We've been working with these guys for a while now, not only as far as this podcast is concerned, but also at the RŌL Academy. We've had their gear. I personally use their gis. What a phenomenal product.
Yeah, I mean, jiu-jitsu, judo, MMA, tape, bags, anything you need for your jiu-jitsu journey, you can find at fujisports.com.
Let's talk RŌL TV. There's so much content on there. It's ridiculous at this point. But I think what is even more intriguing, as time went on during the project, we've been recording most of the events that were taking place here at RŌL Academy. At this point, I mean, we have guys like Chris Howder, Armin Fati, Rafael Lovato Sr., and Pete the Greek. I mean, there are so many different events that we've kind of recorded it. Don't you think that's amazing? I mean, it's points of reflection and kind of going back for all the students to see what really happened and refresh their memory.
Yeah, I think it's great, you know, being able to go back and look at all these high-level practitioners, Octavio Cudo, like one of the names you didn't mention. And I mean, just these guys that have been doing this for so long come in, teach these amazing seminars and workshops, and it's all recorded and there for you to watch.
Yeah, absolutely. So if you want to get additional savings on all this, type in code RŌL Radio at the coupon and get additional 30% off of your membership.
Nice. Go to RŌLAcademy.tv. What's up, everyone, and welcome back. If you haven't already, please remember to hit the like, share, subscribe, download, listen, and whatever other button there is, and leave us a review wherever you do listen. That ensures that we can continue bringing you the great guests and amazing content that you have come to expect. Today's guest was the 2022 number 4 brown belt in the world and was recently awarded his black belt from Edward Scissorhands Anthony. Aidan Sericolo joins the show to discuss his surreal promotion to black belt, the student and instructor's responsibilities to create success, balancing competition and instructing, and the best ways to truly improve your BJJ. Here's the RŌL Radio with co-owner and instructor of the newest Atlas Jiu Jitsu location, former number 4 IBJJF no-gi brown belt, Aidan Sericolo.
Welcome to RŌL Radio.
And we are live.
Hey, here we go.
Episode 154. Man,
Right,
I'm still hung up on the fact that we've done 150 guests here.
That's pretty cool.
It's pretty ridiculous.
It is.
It's pretty ridiculous. Before I forget, I'm gonna keep reminding this because I continuously want feedback from you guys who are listening right now. Go to our website, RŌLradio.com, and tell us which episode you like the best. Every month, every few weeks, we are drawing a winner. You know, we'll read out your comments. There's several of them coming in, you know, on constant basis. So I'm really curious which episodes you like because your feedback is important to us. We want to know how well we are doing or how much we suck, depending on how you take a look at us. But conversations take place, and I'm curious what impact our guests are making on you if you are listening to it. So go over there, go to our site, you know, free t-shirt, access to thousands of videos on RŌL TV. All that is available as a small token of appreciation for your feedback back to the show.
Yeah, absolutely. And restrictions do apply. You got to be here in the States.
Gary needs to like you, otherwise it's not happening.
I do. And check your emails because you got to follow up once we email you and let you know. Once we announce it and email you, you got to follow up, right?
Yeah.
Because we need your address for your t-shirt.
Yeah, absolutely.
All right, cool.
All right. How's your week, by the way?
My week?
Yeah.
So far, so good.
You walked in pretty grumpy this morning.
You know, it's Wednesday. I'm looking for an excuse. I don't know. I don't remember who we were talking to recently that said that they have a t-shirt that was it. I think it was Victor, but he was saying that Cyborg calls him Mr. Grumpy. And, that's the only title I'm going to get.
Is it
from him. So yeah, I'm looking for the Mr. Grumpy title.
Is that what it is?
Yeah.
Well, you're on your way.
I got to win something in life.
Is that what? It's all about achievable goals.
Yes, and I can achieve that one quite easily.
I
daily basis.
think you are there. To be
There we
honest,
go.
that's always great to have you on the show and have this interesting.
Look how
interaction.
happy I am when I talk about being grumpy, though, right? So
Is it that, or is it talking to me?
it's the grumpy thing.
Oh, okay.
For sure.
Yeah, I figure.
Sure.
I
talk to
figure.
you
I figure.
enough.
My
I think
presence.
talking to you is what makes me grumpy, and then this is my way of venting about it. So,
Aidan, do you see what I have to put up with every single day? I mean, this is craziness. This is great. Welcome to the show, by the way.
when you get to my age and you still got to deal with all this nonsense, you'll be grumpy too.
They say that selecting a good team to surround yourself is a key point of your success. I don't know. I'm starting to question this. It's always fun to talk to Gary and have him around.
Well, I don't.
Anyhow, how are you doing? Thanks for next hour or so of your time designating for the conversation with us. How are things going with you?
Things are great. Thank you so much for having me. Yeah, as I was saying when we started, I just moved to Boston. So I'm from upstate New York originally. So moved out here this month, actually looking to open up a school in Massachusetts somewhere. So I'm very excited. So yeah, it's a big change, but I'm excited for it.
Oh, good for you. I mean, that's a big step. But not only that, you recently stepped to the dark side. You were promoted to black belt. Congratulations on that. I mean, that's arguably one of the bigger milestones that one who trains jiu-jitsu might be dreaming of or might be aiming for, isn't it?
Yeah, it's really strange. I remember, so my academy is a little different with black belt promotions. So all of my promotions were surprise promotions. But with black belt, my professor, his philosophy is, it's like you said, it's such a big milestone that he surprised me by telling me that I was going to be getting it, but I didn't get it on that night. So the philosophy is like, this is such a big thing and so many people supported you on the way. Like you might want to have them here for it. Yeah. So like plan your speech. It's such a big moment, you know? So yeah, he told me that I was going to be getting it. So I knew for about a month. I told my family and my friends. And so we had this big seminar planned and it was so surreal leading up to it because like I kind of was a black belt, but wasn't for a month. You know, like I knew I was going to be getting it, but I didn't have it. So it was really weird. And everyone kept asking me like, how do you feel? How do you feel? I'm like, well, you know, once I have that around my waist, then I think I'll feel it. And then I got it around my waist and everyone's like, so you're a black belt. How does it feel? And I was like, ask me in 3 months. I don't know. And it's like, still kind of doesn't feel real, you know?
But that's always an interesting conversation. And we bring this up on the show so many times because one, it is a very personal moment. It is unarguably a personal achievement, and it really means a lot to the individual who is getting rewarded with it. But then at the same time, there are this different criteria. That's number one. And number two, there's different approach by many different academies or associations or instructors. You know, some similar to you have that conversation, and I do the same thing with mine. I have the conversation with guys who get promoted. You know, it's like one, are you ready for this? This is coming down the pipe. We want to take this seriously. And two, the element of, surprise. You know, it's kind of, we are a little bit more ready for this. But others don't. Others is a complete kind of showing up. Matter of fact, Armand Fadiga was just promoted from Eddie Bravo at 10 Planet. And this happened literally a couple of days ago. I was messaging with him last night. And a complete surprise. He had no idea what was coming down the pipe, right? And would you rather know as it happened to you, or would you rather be surprised?
Yeah, so that's funny. So when he first told me I was going to be getting it, I was like, oh, thank God I have time to like plan a speech. Like I'm not going to be fumbling over my words. Like I have time to think about it. But then like it was a month. So then it just kept building up. Like, oh, the day's getting closer and closer. Like the dark side is coming, you know?
Can I get more time? Can I postpone?
Yeah. And actually, so my professor is under Julio Boca Fernandez. So I know you have Carlson Gracie lineage, right? Yeah. So he was there it was his seminar. So like he's there and I got to give a speech in front of him and I'm getting a black belt in front of him. And then when you're around guys like that too, you're like, I mean, he's a coral belt now, but I'm like, how can I, like I stand next to him, I'm like, I should be a white belt. You know, I mean, how can I be getting this, you know? So it's so many different levels, but yeah, as the time went on during that month, I was like, oh my God, I just kind of want this to be over with a little bit, you know, because it's such a big, I don't really like to have it be like all about me, you know, it was like a big moment about me. But what I decided to do was, it's like you said, it's a personal journey, but so many people helped me get there. So I made most of like what I had to say, just like thanking the people who helped me get there. And I chose to have that moment that was like about me, be about the people who got me there, because I wouldn't have been there if it wasn't for them, you know?
Yeah, and I think first of all, congratulations to you. Once again, I think it is an amazing milestone for everybody who gets there to be recognized in such fashion. But also, I think, you know, as this sport and this art continues evolving over the last decade and going in the future, I think what's interesting, and I had this epiphany literally during the recent competitions, is couple decades ago when I was, you know, in those shoes, or when I was starting, you know, jiu-jitsu, kind of creeping up into the going through that journey, the goal was to be a black belt. The black belt was always this this recognition of certain mastery, like you've achieved a certain level, you've been recognized. And just last week or 2 weeks ago, Megaton is competing as a first coral belt who competes, right? Who's registered and as in a competition. And then it like hits me. It's like, damn, at this point, this achievement of a black belt, like, how do you even compare this? You know what I mean? You have a guy who's been on the mat, who's been a black belt for decades, not training. He's been a black belt for decades. And now we have, you know, we achieved this level of black belt, and we are supposed to, you know, fit into this criteria of being an expert, being a leader, and teaching others. And what's your thought on this? This was pretty mind-blowing to me, because now that coral belt sets a brand new dynamic. This is a new level. This is a complete new layer to this whole ranking system, if you will. Yeah.
So I was thinking about a similar thing recently, actually. So I'm 29. I'll be 30 in October. So I'm technically Master 1 because it's the year you turn 30. You know, not So it came on quick. All of a sudden, I'm a Master 1.
Hold on before you go you go further. So 1, you get your black belt. 2, you move to Boston, and 3, you get pushed up to the old man bracket.
I know, right?
Yeah. Okay.
But yeah, so I got my black belt, and so now I have the choice to compete as an adult or Master 1. And you know, I feel like the you know, how people talk about the masters divisions is like it's the old guy divisions, but like you're in your prime, you know, it depends on the person, but like 28 to 35, like your prime. And you think about the adult divisions as black belts, and it's like the young studs, like, you know, Tain and Dalpra, all these guys, like these monsters. And then like Master 1 is not easy. You know, I mean, it's like the Meows are in that, you know, it's like, and then, so it's like, okay, what's better? Like, I'll do adult, and, you know, these guys are going to be younger than me, but maybe we've been training for a similar amount of time. Or then you do Master 1s, and it's like, I mean, it's not megaton level, but it's these guys who've been training they've been black belts for, you know, like half my life. Yeah. You know, so it's pretty crazy. And the masters divisions now are like the biggest divisions you see.
Well, and I think this is the mind-blowing part, because I think 10 years ago, maybe 15 or 20, the master division was viewed as the old guys, you know? Yeah. Today, I think, and I'm curious what you think about this, but today, in my eyes, today a master division is not the old guys necessarily. It's the guys who've been on the mat for very freaking long time.
Right.
Like I recently, not recently, last year, I think, I was talking to somebody and they were, I think Pan Am's Awards, I don't remember, but they were, I think Master 3, you know, and they're like, oh, you know, blah, 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 you know, I'm getting up there. And then, you know, I look at the division and you get like Compredo in his division. And I was like, okay, All right. Well, this changes kind of everything right now. And I mean, this is not pushovers here, right? Like,
no, it's not the guys that started in their 30s. It's
no, for 30 years, right? Exactly. Yeah. So it is interesting how this evolution of jiu-jitsu. I think we are in this pivotal point where it's not the old guys; it is the guys who've been doing this for very long time.
Yeah, it's like really like, so Master One and probably more Master One now, I guess. It's like the first generation of kids, at least in like America, that started doing it when they were kids instead of like an American sport. And now they're, but a lot of those guys still compete in the adult divisions too, but they're that age where they could do Master One. And now it's become more of a normal thing. Like you see like the Art of Jiu Jitsu Academy, and they have all these like amazing orange belts and yellow belts and all these kids that like you just know you see the future right there. Like those are going to be the kids, and it's becoming more and more of a normal thing. But I think this is like the first time where we're really seeing like the growth of that throughout the years of it being like we were kids and we did this instead of playing baseball, and now they're 30 years old, they're 35 years old, where we didn't have that before.
What are your thoughts on individuals like Magaton particularly? I think he's paving a path in a very unique way. Not only, I mean, I don't know exactly how old he is, but I think he's in his 50s. And maybe Gary can look it up. But, that's one. And he continuously stays active. But not only that, he competes in adult divisions. This is not, you know what I mean? And he doesn't do it, and like, let's make this clear. He doesn't do it because he has to. He does it because he loves it so much.
Yeah. Yeah. I think one of the great things about that from my perspective, like, is, when you're a coach or, an athlete that people look to for advice, like when you walk the walk, like people will take your advice, and like, so one of the hard things about me being like a younger coach was like if older students would, ask me like, oh, I'm older, like it hurts to be on the mat and train, whatever. Like when I give them advice, like I can tell them what I think would help them, but like I haven't experienced it, but I can tell them what I think would make them better. I can tell them what I've seen other people do, what I do to keep to prevent injuries, right? But one thing I did, so I cut 30 pounds for my last competition circuit through IBJJF. I started off a bit heavy. I was like 177 pounds, and then I was competing at featherweight. So I had to get down. Nogi was 149. So I had to walk around to like 147. So for that, there was a couple reasons why I did it. But then one of the things I noticed afterwards was, if we had people come in who weren't athletic or they wanted to start jiu-jitsu and it's their first day in the academy and they're overweight and they see, I was a brown belt at the time. And I'm like, been doing it for a while. I'm like in shape, and I'm telling them like, okay, here's how you got to lose weight. Here's what you got to do to be committed. And they're like, dude, you're like just skinny and you're a brown belt and like, you've been doing this forever. Like, why should I listen to you? I'm like, dude, I'm skinny and I lost 30 pounds. You know what I mean? Like I walked the walk and I was able to do it and I know how to do this. So I think for like Megaton, one of the great things, I mean, he inspires me. Like, I mean, he's a beast. And then like, if I was one of his students and I saw him doing that, I'm like, there's no excuse for me not to step on that mat and like give it my all, Yeah,
definitely. I mean, that style of leadership is that it's extremely visible to everybody around you. And you're right. I mean, many people start jiu-jitsu not necessarily for the competition or jiu-jitsu reasons, even, I mean, today, shout out to Pedro. I was talking to Pedro today and one of our students right after class and he was talking to somebody who literally did a first class today. And he's like, oh man, my first class, I couldn't finish warm-ups. Like this was hard. This was really, really hard. And then after several months, I'm shaving off the pounds and I'm moving, and now I'm going rounds after rounds after rounds. And I think it is extremely important for all of us to acknowledge the fact that not everybody will be a world champion. Not everybody is going to compete, but everybody can achieve these very realistic, life-changing events and milestones through jiu-jitsu.
For sure, and people need to look at, we're not all starting from the same spot either. We're not all starting as a 22-year-old, somewhat in shape kid. We might be 55 starting and completely out of shape. Or with injuries and stuff. So that starting point's not the same either. So take that into consideration.
And I'll take this even further. oftentimes when we look at somebody else, we look at the final result of what they've accomplished. We don't see the path and the grind and the struggles and the failures one upon another that they had to go through to achieve to that point. And, you know, unfortunately, as humans, it's hard for us to envision some of that for ourselves in the future. You know, we see all these obstacles, right? It's like this phrase that, you know, either people, I know, I'm going to quote somebody.
Yeah,
I know. I'm going to butcher another quote, you know, but no, it's like, listen, it's like either you see all the obstacles on the way to the goal, or you see how you're solving the problems to get you there. Right. And it's a very different mindset. It's like the glass half full, half empty kind of, you know, approach. Sorry, Aidan.
Yeah, no, sorry. I was actually talking with one of our older members a few months back, and he was like just having like a rough day, like a rough training day. He's been with us forever, and he's a blue belt, and he's been there for years, and he's as consistent as he can be. He's like a family man. He battles injuries, you know, like he's got a lot going on outside the gym, and he tries to come in as much as he can. He's an older guy. He's like almost 60. And then you get these kids who are like 20 years old who come in, they've been training a few months, or they could be a super athletic guy and they can come in and just kind of muscle something or, you know, potentially hurt him. He has to tap, and he's just like, man, I'm having like a bad day. Like, what do I do? Like, you know, and I was like, listen, man, like you're in here. This is a good day. You know how many people your age are doing this?
Yep.
You know, like you won by getting off the couch and coming in here. Like you have every reason to not come here. Like You got kids, you got work, you got a wife, you got injuries. Like, you know, like, I mean, you're a beast, dude. Like you inspire me. Like you're in here no matter what, like whenever you can be, you're in here, and like you're going head to head with these like young guys. You can't compare yourself to them. Like you're winning by being here. And like another thing I like to tell people about is like, it's like, I feel like it's like a meme in jiu-jitsu. Like I tell people like how great jiu-jitsu is for them, and I'm walking around like limping, you know. but it's like I feel like you have to choose between, there's two pains in life, right? There's like the pain of being active and the pain of being inactive. I would rather have the pain of being active. Every injury I've had, I've been fortunate to not need like surgery or anything like that. I've been pretty banged up, but you know, sometimes I have to train light or take a few months off. But I would take that a million times over than the pain of like someone just can't sit up off the couch, you know, because they've let their body get to that point, you know? So it's like, you're winning by being here, you know, just because you can't tap a 20-year-old wrestler doesn't mean you're losing or having a bad day.
Well, I'll remember that later tonight.
What is that phrase? That's true, Gary. What is that phrase? There is either pain of discipline or pain of regret, essentially. Right?
Exactly.
Either you grinding and you doing what you want to do in order to achieve the goals that you desire, or, well, oftentimes later we scratch ourselves and say, I wish. Aidan, let me ask you this. How many times you have a conversation with a student and they say, I wish I started this earlier?
Yep. Oh, yeah.
Almost everybody.
I mean, almost everybody.
I've talked to like 16-year-olds who say that.
Yeah.
Like, shut up.
I know. I was like, I wish I started when I was 16. Yeah. No. Like, I say this. And I've been on the mat for 20 plus years. Like, right. I wish I started this earlier, right? I mean, it is such an interesting dynamic that it's hard for us to see ahead, obviously, but even envisioning is so hard, and put actionable things in play in order for us to achieve those goals. But yet when we get there, we are like, damn it, man, I should have done this. I wish I did. And now there's the point of regret. And you know, obviously we can't go back. I wish we could. Well, actually, no, I don't. I don't know.
The tough thing too is like, it takes so long to see progress. So if you have a bad day, that can stick with you or if you're in like a plateau, it can stick with you for a while. Yeah. It's like, I was thinking about like how to describe that. And I think it's like when you look in the mirror every single day, you don't notice yourself getting older. Like you see the same, like it's the same face I've always seen. And then you look at this picture, you know, when you were 18, you're like, oh my God, that's not even me anymore. You know, that's kind of like how it is. Yeah. You know, so it can be really tough when you have one of those days, and it's like, and just telling someone like, hey, it's going to get better, but it's a marathon. It's going to take a while. That's not the most comforting thing, but that's just like the truth. You know, it's like such a long process. And at that point, you have to enjoy it. It's like, you have to think of it in that context of like, I'm winning by being here. Like, hopefully you found a team where you really like your teammates. Like that's where you should be training. You know, it's like the most important thing is like you have a good environment. So like just being there should make you happy. if you can't roll hard, just drill technique, be there, see your friends, watch jujitsu, you know, like there's different things you can do. It doesn't have to be that battle every day, you know?
No, absolutely. I agree. And matter of fact, you know, taking this even one step deeper is many instructors, after teaching for many, many years, they have this sense of predictability, who's going to stick around and who's not going to stick around, simply because of how they look at hard work, how they look at the goals that they set for themselves, you know, and either, you know, oftentimes either we have to change those perspectives, or unfortunately, this is going to become, you know, unachievable for some. And that's the unfortunate part behind jiu-jitsu, that change comes very slow, you know, and it's very grinding. Oftentimes there's many obstacles, you know, and discouragement could be high if not presented correctly. Do you think, here's an interesting question, do you think that it's students' responsibility or the instructor's responsibility to provide the successful path for each and every single one of the students?
So I think that the instructor needs to set a framework and, like, you know, have a curriculum that they have put thought into, that if you follow this, like, this is going to make it easier. It's such a complicated thing, right? So, like, as easy as we can make it, the better. So setting up a framework where this, if you follow this framework, this is going to help you remember things. And this is a structure that we've seen work. But it's like a trickle down thing, right? So the instructor can only do so much. And it also depends on how big the classes are. You know, if it's a small class, the instructor can have more one-on-one time with you. But as your academy grows and it's this bigger place, it's also dependent on the other students and the environment, you know? So like me and, so I was the assistant instructor at the school I train at. And so me and the head instructor would basically split the room in half, right? It'd be a big class and I would walk around half the room, make sure people had it right. He'd walk around the other half of the room. And when it was like a crazy day, it's like, if there's so many people there, if I start on this side and I walk all the way around the room and make sure everyone's got it right, and like, I don't just go like, yep, okay. And like someone asks a question, I have to answer it, and I'm trying to get through. By the time I get to the last person, I'm like, oh, I hope you did it right, because we have to switch now. You know what I mean? And so that's why it's like, but when your academy is that big, you should at that point have, you know, some higher belts so you can partner with the newer guys and they can kind of help them through the stuff as you come through. So it's like, your teammates have to take care of you as well. And then it's about understanding why you're there, you know? So like that person I was talking about before, you know, like him being in class, like if he could watch his diet or get in some exercise when he can't make it to the academy, it's going to help. But he's not trying to be a professional athlete. He's just trying to come there and blow off some steam. You know, he works a job and whatever. But if you're trying to be, you know, an MMA fighter or professional competitor, then you have to be doing a lot of stuff outside the gym as well. You have to be pushing yourself. You have to hold yourself accountable, you know, and then your coach should be there to like, to help you through that and to give you guidance. But I think it depends on how big the place is too. But I think the coach needs to set that framework, and then it's also up to like the team to help each other flow through that. Does that make sense?
Yeah, no, absolutely. And so in that case, let me ask you kind of a follow-up question. Let's dig deeper into this. Is the smaller academy with more one-on-one approach more beneficial to the student, or the larger academy with larger diversity and more experience and knowledge combined on the mat?
Yeah. So yeah, it's a fine line. So like an example I can give is, so sometimes I'll have people, so I handle like, you know, I'll get the emails and stuff for the school, and I'll set up classes for people. And sometimes I'll have someone reach out and they'll call or email, and they want to start with private lessons, like one-on-one. And like, do you have any experience? Have you like wrestled? Have you done jujitsu? Like, no, nothing. I'm just, you know, like maybe like a middle-aged guy who like wants to do jujitsu. He thinks one-on-one, like if I was trained one-on-one with a black belt, this is the best I'm ever going to get. You know, it's like, it's a black belt, me and just a black belt. And I'm like, you know, if that's all that fits in your schedule, then that's what we should do. But it's going to be way more expensive, right, than just doing a membership. And then I'm going to be teaching you how to break ball, how to shrimp, how to do like these basic movements, like an arm bar. We're going to go through some stuff, right? So when you do these general classes, like I think in the beginning, as long as you have someone to guide you through that, it can be a bigger class with less one-on-one attention, as long as you have those higher belts to help them along the way. The bigger class is good because eventually, as you get those foundational skill sets, you need a diversity of training partners. You know what I mean? You need people who are your level that you can have these hard head-to-head battles with. You need people below you that you can basically, it's almost like drilling technique, you know, like with resistance, where you can really like fine tune and think through it. And then you need those people that you're kind of chasing after, where it's like they're better than you, they're beating you up. So really, like, to get the best that you can be, I think you need that bigger place where it's the diversity of it. I think in the beginning, having those small classes and like the one-on-one attention is really, really good.
Yeah.
And then, I mean, once you're at a certain skill level, like those smaller classes can be really good too. Like, it's like, so our academy is a pretty good size. I think we're the biggest school in upstate New York. And so my professor is a secondary black belt, and then I'm the second black belt under him. So there's only 2 black belts at the academy besides him. And we have a handful of brown belts, a bunch of purple belts, and blue belts and white belts. So if it's a big class, depending on like the rotation, I might be rolling with a bunch of blue belts that day. Right. So it's up to me to like kind of determine how I'm training, but I've trained long enough where I can do that, you know. And then those blue belts, like after I roll with them, like even if I'm winning, like when I go to switch partners, I'll give them a little bit of advice. You know what I mean? Like we'll help each other and like through it, you know?
Yeah. And like in the very beginning of all of this entire experience, this entire learning curve, however you want to slice this, you know, we do need a lot of guidance, almost hand holding in a sense. Because we are very lost, very confused. We don't know what the hell is going on. We don't even know how to, you know, shrimp or break fall or move. Like, you know, how many times we say, you know, instructor will tell us students, move your hip, and they are moving their shoulders, or put your foot down and they are lifting the other hand up.
Arm.
Yeah,
your
right. Like,
arm.
you know what? Yeah, right. The other, yeah, not your foot, your arm. Yeah, no, but you know, so there's a lot of conflicts and confusion and chaos, you know, from a logical perspective for the students. But longer we do it, I feel that the diversity of the training partners and instructors will only benefit you, even though it feels like you get less attention, because at that point you are semi-independent. And I don't know how you view, you know, instruction or leadership, but in my mind, my job is to teach my students to be independent so they can self-learn, self-troubleshoot, and I'm here to help them out in this journey, not necessarily to hold their hand from white to black. Like that, at that point, we're not doing them many favors. I don't know. What maybe I'm wrong on this. I mean...
No, I agree. So I think like it depends on the culture of your gym. Like if you're setting up that framework, right, where you have a team that's the higher belts understand that they're not just like there to beat up the lower belts. Like you have those guys that, you know, you could be like a brown belt and there's like this blue belt that you go hard on, but you guys kind of like know each other and it's like, it's a blue belt, he can handle it, you know, but like, you're not there to beat up the brand new white belts, you know? And so you have a culture of the higher belts understand that even if they win a round against the guy, they're kind of like, you know, dominating him at the end, maybe give him a little advice or like let him work something, and like you're taking care of each other and kind of like helping each other grow as a team. Because when you do that blue belt right now, you might be able to do whatever you want to him, but as you help him, like he's going to get better and he's going to be a better training partner for you. Right. So because the coach can only watch so many people. Like when it's a big class, it's almost like when you're looking around the room, it's just making sure no one crashes into each other, basically, you know what I mean? So it's like, and then you can try and coach people here and there as you're running through, but it can get chaotic. Like, it's just like, hey, watch out, you know? So like you need that cohesiveness and the higher belts to help out as well. If it's just like a gym where you come in there and everyone just goes hard on you no matter what and just like beats you up and doesn't help you, I think that, you know, then it's on the coach more to like come around and like help you out, because you got to have help somewhere.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah. And I think it is important to acknowledge that there's not right or wrong place. They cater towards different demographics and different goals. And there is enough people training jiu-jitsu who really find, you know, these different environments as something that would benefit them. You know, there are academies where there's like a Shark Tank, a slaughterhouse, you know, and there are others where there's very much so chilled back and average age might be 40 and up. And that's fine too. There's no judgment behind it, at least in my eyes.
I know people that train at both. They go to different academies for different reasons,
Oh,
right?
absolutely. Yeah. Absolutely. Yeah. I know many guys who will train no gi and 10th planet, but they will go train gi somewhere else because these are two different systems providing two different
I'm even talking
skill
about the
sets.
culture, though.
Even culture-wise?
This school goes hard. This is more about community.
Yeah. And I think that's the beautiful part about this evolution of jiu-jitsu. Now you have the diversity not only within the academy, but also diversity between the academies. And some students have the choice of doing this, you know. I always say, check with your instructor before you go train somewhere else. Some people don't like that. So it is what it is, you know. Let's take this back 20 plus years. How did it all start? Do you remember your very first day on the mat?
Yeah, I do. So I was actually going to the academy for I'm not sure quite how long before I actually stepped on the mats, because I have a brother who's 16 years younger than me. So some Sunday mornings, my mom would get me to drive him to the class. So it'd be 9:30 to 11, there'd be a kids class. And then from 11 to 1, there'd be an adults class. So I would drive him there. I was like really reluctant. Like I didn't want to get up on a Sunday morning, you know, like
Who
20
does?
years old. I'm like, I don't want to.
Especially for your brother.
I don't want to bring a 4-year-old to some weird rolling around class. Like I'm good on this, you know? So I'd be there and I would, the kids class would be going on, and then he'd come off the mats and I'd be going to bring him out, and the adults would start coming in, they'd start their warm ups, and I was kind of like looking over, and I wrestled for a few years when I was a kid. So I was familiar with grappling. So like I started wrestling in 5th grade, and I wrestled through to 9th grade. So how I started wrestling was, I had a buddy in 5th grade who, I think the wrestling team was trying to like recruit kids. So they did this like thing during like lunch where they had the mats in the cafeteria, and like we had to use this like separate cafeteria to eat, but like you can go over here, and like they were going to like have kids like kind of try out or like show them moves. And I went with my buddy, and I remember I got him and like I grabbed his head and I like harried him. And I smashed him on the ground, and he was like wheezing, and like the air was knocked out of him. And I was like, "Oh man, this is kind of cool." Like a very sick child. But I was like, "Oh man, this is kind of cool." And so I started wrestling, and I did that for about 4 years. I did it for 4 years, but I never really like loved it. I always felt like there was something missing. And like now looking back, I realized it just wasn't jujitsu. You know, it was like grappling, and I love grappling, but just something wasn't quite right. Like I'm sprinting up and down these hallways after school, and like what, like this isn't great, but I like grappling. And so I went in there, and like, you know, like I could smell the mats, and it kind of brought me back. I'm like, okay, this like kind of missed this. Like maybe I should try it out. And so I told my mom, I was like, yeah, I think I'm going to try the jiu-jitsu class next week. And she's like, okay, all right, yeah, hop in. So I go in, and I don't remember most of the class, but I do remember the first move I learned was, we were in side control. We pull them on their side. You sit on their head and do a Kimura. So like we did the warm up, and then within the first hour, someone's like sitting on my head, and I'm like, yes, I will dedicate my life to this. Like, I don't know why that made me want to keep going back, but yeah. So I did that class, and then I went home, and I was like, I want to do jiu-jitsu. And my mom's like, all right, but like, if you do it, you got to be committed to it. You know, like this isn't something that, because whenever I did sports growing up, like I would kind of dabble in everything, or I would dabble in different instruments, and I would kind of learn this, but it'd be like a few months here, a few months there, like never quite stuck to something. And I was like, no, I'll be committed to this, like having no idea what that even means, you know, now looking back. But yeah, I did it, and it was just one of those things, like right away it just clicked, and I just loved it.
Yeah. Yeah. It's addicting, isn't it?
Just sit on the head, Kimura. They got me.
I think that's in sport this week.
It is. It's what is it about jiu-jitsu? Like, again, I mean, we've talked to 150 plus people, and a lot of them, if not majority, if not all of them, they essentially, the story is the same. Somehow they get dragged into the academy. Somehow they get put in some kind of awkward position. It's not them doing it to somebody, but oftentimes somebody is done to them. And they are like, I have no clue what the hell just happened, but I got to do this. This is different. What is it about jiu-jitsu that is so it just sucks you in?
Yeah, so I can't speak for other people, but for me, I feel like I always have a million things going on in my head. I feel like to calm like my body and my head, I need now I understand I need like exercise. I need to like just kind of blow out my lungs and get that and clear my mind. I feel like centered after I do that. Jiu-jitsu was the first thing I ever did where I truly felt like, I guess, like meditative. Like I tried yoga classes before, and I remember I go in and they'd be like, okay, forget about your problems, forget about your bills, forget about the problems at home, forget about this. I'm like, you're telling me, you're reminding me of all my problems. You know what I mean? Like you're putting that all in my head right now. Like, great, now I'm thinking about that and I'm uncomfortable stretching. So it was the first time where I like truly would zone out for like an hour and I could only think about what I was doing. And then you get to like solve these problems and like you get that workout, and it was so like therapeutic and meditative. And that's what drew me to it, I think.
So your brother started before you?
Yeah.
Is he still training?
Does he still train?
So he actually is coming back to the academy. So he trained for a few years and then he got into running. So at least he's doing something good, but he actually came back. So my last day in Albany before I moved out here, we're like, hey, it's Aidan's last day. I mean, I'll still be like visiting and coming back and forth, but let's make it a big class. It'll be fun. We'll like all like, roll, whatever. And so like my mom and my brother surprised me because my mom actually trained. She's a blue belt.
Oh,
she has like really bad knees, so she hasn't been training as much lately. But yeah, so my mom trains, my brother trains, and he came back into the class. So it was like awesome to see him on the mats. And then my mom texted me like later that night and she's like, he missed it. He wants to get back into it. So I was like, so happy to hear it. So I'm going to be on him about training more.
Yeah, you
Cool.
should.
That's
Absolutely
awesome.
should. You should be on him
because again,
your mom
like,
coming
it's one of
back.
those things, man. It was one of those things where like he was 4 years old and he trained until like, man, he might've been 8 or 9 or 10. I can't remember exactly how long, but I remember he wanted to quit, and me and my professor talked to him. We're like, listen, dude, like you started when you're 4 years old. The one thing you can't get back is time. Everyone says like, I wish I started when I was younger, and my mom is like, she's an amazing person. She never forced anything on us. She was like super chill, but she was like, this is one thing I kind of want to like force on you. Like you're not going to, there's nothing bad that's going to come out of you sticking with this. Like you can still have time to play video games and see friends and just find a little time for this, And so he stuck with it for a bit longer. And then, it became this thing where like, he was kind of dreading going, like, all right, we don't want him to hate it. Like, hopefully he'll just come back later. And he's 13 now, so still young enough. Yeah. So he came back at 13. So yeah.
It's hard. I mean, you can't tell anybody that age anything because they think they're invincible or they're going to live forever. There's no concept.
No, but then they get their black belt and they are like, I wish I started earlier.
Right. I wish I never took those 3 years off.
I just had this conversation literally this week, yesterday. We had a friend of ours who, life took him in a very different direction. And he was a purple belt in which he took a pause and, few years break, successful with his career and everything, but jiu-jitsu was tabled, was put aside. And yesterday he was like, I wish that things were different. I wish I made different decisions. How do I get back? Like, I need to figure this out.
We're here tomorrow. I think everybody says see you tomorrow.
Yeah. But, so some of those decisions are, it is what it is. It's life. I often say it's life. We can't live. I try not to live with the past. I try not to live with regrets. I try not to analyze. I wish I could have, I should have, all that. It is today. It is now. What can I do to change and go where I need to go to make the goals or achieve the goals that I want to achieve? And it's truly 100% my choice. And it's hard. It's hard. We talk about a lot of struggles. We talk about life. We talk about some of the obstacles that you have gone through and overcame and you shaping your life to be an instructor at an academy, be a leader. But I'm curious, what is harder for you, competing or teaching?
So with competing, I think they're both skills, right? Like there are some people who are amazing competitors, maybe not the best teachers. And there are some teachers who are amazing at that, not the best competitors, right? So when I was a blue belt, my professor came to me and he was like, I see like you seem pretty committed. Like I see like potential in you, like how serious are you about jiu-jitsu? And I was like, I want to make this my life. Like for me, winning in jiu-jitsu was always, if I can find a way to make a living doing jiu-jitsu, like I've done a lot of like shitty jobs, like, and I hate it. And I was like, if I can find a way to just make a living doing this, I'll be so happy, So I was like, I will do whatever I have to do. Like, I want to learn how to do this. Like, I want to make jiu-jitsu my life. So, okay. So he had me start teaching kids classes when I was a blue belt. So I started to learn how to teach. And then I competed a bit as a white belt, but blue belt was when I really started, like, I started traveling around the country. I got to go, I went internationally a few times. But that was where I like really learned how to compete and like how to be a competitor, and went through those like struggles for the first time. I would say that coaching, so when I was a kid, I wanted to be a teacher, but I hated school. And I was like, what?
Isn't it like oxymoron?
I know. I was like, I love helping people and teaching, but I can't imagine myself being in a classroom for the rest of my life. Like, I don't even want to be here now, And so I was like, well, I guess I feel like when you're a kid, there's such a limited view on what you can do with your life. Like, I mean, and maybe it's getting better now, but for me, it was like, you just see people around you, like all these, like, I'll work in an office, or I'll be this, or I'll be that. And there was no, like, I'll be a jujitsu teacher. I was like, the only teachers are a teacher in a classroom. And like, I like helping people. I like the feeling of giving back to people, but I guess I won't ever get to feel that. So when I started being able to coach jujitsu, I was like, oh, there it is. Like that's what I wanted, And so like, I feel like that was easy as far as like, I love doing it. I love seeing progress. I love helping people. I think the hard part with coaching is those moments like after class when the guy comes up to you and like asks for that advice, like, and what you tell them could like determine if they come back or not, like they're having those rough days, like kind of, and I feel like that's just through experience, and it could be like through your own life experiences. Like if you've lived a crazy life, and it doesn't have to be like crazy as far as partying goes, but like if you've had a lot of things happen to you in your life, then you have more experiences to draw on, and you can maybe help these people easier. And then sometimes it's just like you're a coach and like a guy asks you a question, and it's like learning. It's like you go to a competition, you get caught in an armbar, like, oh man, I should have let go of that collar grip sooner. It's like this guy asks you a question, maybe like you give him an answer and like you feel is the right answer. And then you're like, oh man, I feel like I could have given a better answer, a better suggestion, or this or that. And like you kind of learn and grow, but it's like you're growing as a person, So I feel like that's the hard part about being a teacher. So in a sense, like there's more weight to being a good teacher than there is to being a good competitor. Like if you lose, like it sucks, and if you make your living competing, that's some serious weight there, but like you're kind of dealing with people's lives. Like I was saying, jiu-jitsu is like therapy for me. So that's how it is for a lot of people. So if you are like, having a bad day and you're like a jerk to someone in the academy, or like you just give them this bad advice, or you let like some brand new college wrestler come in and they like smash this guy and break him, and he's like, you were supposed to take care of me. Like, what happened? It's like that stuff I think has way more weight to it, but I feel like I think my passion is for coaching, and like with competing, I just want to see like how much I can push myself, and like I want to beat the best guys that I can beat. I want to challenge myself. I want to set goals and accomplish them. But I think a lot of my competition is to build me as a better coach down the road. Like I want to have walked that walk. I want those experiences so I can like help my students when they have those questions or they go through those hard times,
So, and this is somewhat, controversial topic. I mean, in recent times, more and more people talk about this, but up to recently, everybody thought, and many people thought, that being a good competitor makes you automatically a good coach, that you can transfer the information. I'm curious where your brain is with this, where your thoughts are. If there was this scale of, on one side, you are a teacher, you are an educator, and on the opposite side, you are extremely skilled jiu-jitsu expert. Where is the jiu-jitsu instructor fall into this entire scale? Would it be in the middle? Would it be closer to, would it be closer to that expert of jiu-jitsu, or would it be closer to the educator? And obviously you need a knowledge of expertise that you're teaching. I understand that, but I'm trying to figure out what is more important, being a good teacher or being a good competitor or expert in jiu-jitsu?
I think it depends on what your goals are. Like if you're going to teach, you have to know how to teach, and so, but I mean, but you have to have the technical abilities.
No.
Like, so I think what it is like, no, it's very tough. I think that if you're going to like try and build up a big competition team, you should have competition experience.
Yep.
You know, and like I like Robin Black, that MMA commentator.
Mm-hmm.
Like, he fought MMA because he's going to be a commentator. So he did a few fights just to know what it was like. I really respect that, you know?
Mm-hmm.
So I think it depends on what your goals are. But like, I mean, John Danaher is like the best coach out there, and he doesn't compete because of his physical, you know, ailments, but he has the best guys under him, you know? So it's a really tough thing. It kind of depends. Like, the Mendes brothers are these amazing competitors and they're amazing instructors, but you see it both ways. I mean, I think it depends on what kind of academy you want to run. Like, if it's more of like a hobbyist academy, then I think you just need to be the best teacher you can be, create a good environment for them, a safe environment. And then if you want those competitors, if you're having a more competitor based school, you're probably going to draw probably more colored belts and higher belts who they already kind of know some stuff and they're just there for the hard rounds and they don't mind getting beat up and they don't need as much one-on-one attention. They have enough knowledge where if they roll with someone, even if they're kind of getting beat up, they're like, oh man, when I went to do this, that guy did that. And they'll kind of take those mental notes. So yeah, I think it kind of depends on what kind of academy you want to have.
But this brings us to the very important point that this is not so cookie cutter. This is not black and white. Everybody, I think a lot of people think that being an instructor is easy. We show up for an hour, teach a class, peace, life is good. We're gonna take a nap, go surf a little bit. If there's a beach nearby, if not, you going for acai bowl and you coming back for another class, right? That's all we do.
Right.
That's all we do, right?
Yeah.
No, not really. I mean, it's by far deeper than that. And and I think you bring a very valid point that we do impact other people's lives, and oftentimes some of the topics that are being discussed are heavy, and we do make an impact, big impact oftentimes.
I think like when I talk about like, talking to the people after class too, I don't think you have to be like, I don't think just because you're a black belt, you have to give people advice on every aspect of their life. Like, I think they should come to you for things that can relate to that, and it could be like, mental struggles. Like if your instructor is someone you can talk to about that. And like, I think a lot of people who do jiu-jitsu that I'm close with, like, we joined it because we needed that therapy, so it's like, you can talk to them about that. You can talk to them about advice. Like, these younger guys are beating me up. What do I do? Like, I feel like I'm in a plateau, but your instructor you don't have to be the guy for everything. Right. It's just to guide them as far as that goes. So I think there needs to be like a distinction there as well.
Aidan, I'll magnify this. I don't think instructors should know everything. I don't, and I don't think, me personally, I'll admit this publicly on the record me and send it over. Right?
I forgot to hit record.
I don't know everything. I don't have all the answers.
When we talked to Heather Woods, and she talked about when she got her black belt, and made a joke about how instantly she became a philosopher. She became a medical expert.
Yeah.
She could
psychologist.
Yeah, absolutely. As a high level competitor yourself, and we talked about the hobbyist school or the competition driven schools, isn't the ideal to have both?
Yeah, I think so. I think, so my academy, we train pretty hard, but we do a lot of positional sparring. So I would say like 80% of my training is positional sparring.
Can you please repeat that loud and clear so all my students hear this?
Yeah. And you know what? When I first joined the academy, we weren't doing it as much. And so my professor started implementing more positional sparring. Like, we would do like a curriculum where we go over like a certain position for, maybe 2 weeks. We would cover side control and all the different, not all the different, but like different escapes and submissions and, from that position. And then we would go to like free rolling basically, But what we started doing, and we noticed like a real improvement in people is, and it wasn't as fun. Like, I complained at first. I was like, I just want to roll. I just want to like go crazy and have fun. You know what I mean? But so it's like, okay, for 2 weeks, we're going to learn stuff from side control. And then for half the class, you're going to be in top side control. And then for half the class, you're going to be in bottom. And let's say you never play side control. Well, now if you're there, you know what to do, right? Or like, you have to have a well-rounded game, or you have to know how to get to your game from that position.
Yep.
So I think, doing that can help as far as competitors go, because if I'm a high level competitor and I'm rolling with someone who's, you know, maybe a hobbyist, but they're like a pretty strong blue belt, and if we just went from the feet or the knees, maybe I could get to my position right away and I can kind of coast. If they start and side control on me, I'm going to have to fight, you know? So there's that. And then I think as it builds up towards a competition, like if it's a team or a whole team getting ready for like a local competition, or if we're going to travel like a few hours to a competition, then we'll ramp up the training, and, you know, the competitors will be doing like burpees and doing laps, and they'll be in bad positions longer, and we'll make the training more intense. And then there's specific classes where like if you're a competitor, you're doing this class. So I think the academy can have both, and they can even exist in the same class. You know, it can be like, all right, the competitors are in, and you're all going to come in. You get to pick dominant positions on these guys that normally beat you up. Have fun, you know, and now you can get your revenge, you know, and then they have to work out of those bad spots. And so it's like, yeah, you might be a badass who can normally beat these guys up, but okay, he's starting on your back and he's really good there, but he never gets there because you just go for the knees. You know what I mean? So now you got this guy on your back who maybe he's just a blue belt, but he's just really good on the back, and now you got to deal with that.
Yep.
You know what I mean? So
no, listen, sparring sessions are fun. Like there was no argument around this. Like they are fun, and probably they are the most stimulating part of our training. But that does not mean that they are the most beneficial.
They're the most physical stimulating, right? I don't think they're the most mental stimulating, because I think that it's happening, especially maybe for beginners or guys that are hobbyists.
I think what's important really to acknowledge about sparring session is that we are playing our A game. When I'm sparring with you, I have a clear objective, and I'm going to put all the best tools in my pocket against you, right? It's essentially a conflict war, and there's one winner, right? Now, we are testing the best tools we have. Now, if you're using the best tools you have, that means you're not improving the tools that need improvement. Okay, so this is, I think, what Aidan is saying essentially by positional training, right? Is now you're working on a very specific, narrow, and hyper-focused topic or area that you're trying to change in a improvement area, and towards the improvement, right? Making it better, essentially, right? That does not mean you're playing your A game. That means you are working on something very specific, right? We talked about it so many times. Like, I mean, I'm a huge fan of positional training. I'm a huge fan of troubleshooting, vulnerability, figuring stuff out. Like, that's how I learned jiu-jitsu, right? Sparring is great. That's a midterm. That's not in my opinion, that's not when we improve the most. This is not how we maximize, right? Look at any professional sport, okay?
Right.
Nobody's playing a basketball game or a football game every single day. They don't. They run drills, and hundreds of them, focusing on very specific areas, focusing on improving very specific functions within the team, within the sport, within the dynamic, whatever it is, right? They play a game against the other team once a week or every other, whatever the schedule is, but they play the game so infrequently, but they practice by far more than they play the game, right? And they're not going to say, hey, listen, you suck as a goalie, so we're going to test you out today against the best team. You don't see that happening, right? But I think in jiu-jitsu, because it's fun, because it's casual, because it's hobby, because we want to stimulate students, often we fall into this trap, hey, let's roll, let's have fun. Don't misunderstand me. That's very important. But this is not how we improve the most. Aidan, challenge me on this if your thoughts are different.
No, I totally agree. And I think to go off of the football analogy, like I think there's this mentality in jiu-jitsu where like just more is better, more hard rounds, more rounds. Like, I mean, I hear people training like 12 hours a day and it's like the norm. And I don't understand how their bodies don't fall apart, you know?
They do. But, they do fall apart. Yeah. Just in a few years. They don't fall apart today. Yeah.
Right. Yeah. So it's like, you look at other professional sports and it's like, it's not like that. There aren't football players training 12 hours a day like that. No. Like they have their structured practice and then they have the hard game where they have the, you know, this and that, and they make sure they take care of their bodies. Like the crazy thing with jiu-jitsu too, is like, I'm guilty of like, you know, especially if there's like newer people in class or I'm having someone sign a waiver, they're trying to class. Like I miss the warm up and then I come in and then I'm coaching and then it's okay, right into rounds. I'm not warmed up. Mm-hmm. You know what I mean? And then I don't cool down. Like my sister she was a collegiate runner. And like, it baffles her mind that there's like no cool downs. Like, I mean, there's warm ups, but some people skip them or, you know, whatever. But the way we treat our bodies as athletes, I'll do the craziest hard rounds in like a competition class and then just like walk off the mat, take a shower. You know what I mean? I'm definitely guilty of that. You know, it's like where I need to like, there's like no cool downs. There's like, I mean, I'll weight train to like try and keep my body like strong so I prevent injuries. I'm trying to get more into stretching. Is like my back is pretty bad now, but now that I'm the master one, you know, my back is going.
Just wait when that's going to be master two, man. You're going to fall apart.
I think people just don't look at it the right way sometimes.
Well, and I think your sister is 100% right. I mean, that's listen, jiu-jitsu is a very young sport. When we look at a global world existence of sport and athletics, jiu-jitsu is one of the younger ones, okay? And in the last decade, maybe two, but I'm thinking last decade, this is where we're seeing this evolution of athletics in jiu-jitsu. Guys and girls actually getting smart about this. They're hiring personal trainers, strength and conditioning coaches, nutritionists, and all the other things. Now they are really looking outside of just let's roll peace. Okay. I mean, I personally know guys who have competed, 10 or 20 years ago. We've talked to some of them and like you asked them a question, what is your training routine before Worlds? Oh, I'll just roll 3, 4, 5, 7 times, a day. I'll train twice a day, blah, blah, blah. Do you have a specific strategy? No, I'm just going to go and I'm just going to do my thing. And with all the respect to all the higher belts and everybody who is by far smarter than me in jiu-jitsu, that is not a strategic approach. You don't have runners going and saying, listen, let me get a hot dog and then, I'm going to run this, 23 miles. Like that doesn't happen. They have a strategic approach to training and to pre-event specific steps to maximize their body and get their body to where they need to be. And I think just now, jiu-jitsu is pivoting that. Just now, we are getting smarter. Where instructors are getting smarter and warm-ups are being challenged. Cool-downs are being challenged. The amount of times we train. Do you have to train 4 hours a day? Maybe you don't. Maybe if we maximize this and create a specific focused areas here, we can really improve the students. And I think this is where guys like Danaher and many others are really phenomenal with. They are finding systems how to improve the student faster and better without creating the wear and tear. I'll stop talking.
You talked a lot today.
I did. Aidan, thanks for interviewing me today. I'm gonna
fired him up. Fired him up today.
But no, don't you think that would maximize our success? That's one. But number two, it really would give us a longevity of the sport and us as athletes, as individuals.
Yeah, I think it's like what we were saying in the beginning of this, where like now you're seeing the first generation of like at least American kids that are now like the master ones. Like now you're seeing the first generation. Well, maybe not the first generation, but like, they're more widespread of like the crippled master ones, and it's like, oh man, maybe I shouldn't train like that. Or maybe it's okay to tap to leg locks sometimes, like that's okay. You can walk later, So I think, as we see more of that, I think that the internet and instructionals and just YouTube is a big part of that too. Is like, you can see, like, I love watching competition footage. So like I watched a lot of instructional stuff, even just through YouTube. I watch like, snippets of different instructors teaching. But now I really like to watch competition footage, and I'll like rewind like, 10 seconds, 20 seconds, just watch this one piece like over and over and over and over again. So like we have access to like all this different information now, and other athletes are coming into the sport where you see Division I football players who are now blue belts competing in worlds, and they're bringing their philosophies over of how they train and how their coaches taught them. So it's like, it's becoming this big thing. And like, I have mixed feelings about it. I feel like I'm probably one of the last generations to start jiu-jitsu and become a black belt before it really became so popular. You see so many celebrities now are like white belts, and like everyone's got a white belt on and they're all training. And I have mixed feelings about it. Like, I want the sport to grow. And like, I think it's such an amazing thing. I wouldn't want anyone to not have it, but I don't want it to get like too popular where it becomes like ruined. You know, so like in a way, I'm like a little bit stingy with it, where it's like, okay, like it's great celebrities are doing it. It's great they're spreading the word. Like almost everyone knows what jiu-jitsu is now. But I don't want it to become too watered down. But the good thing, like you were saying, is we have these people from other sports coming in and like they're helping us train smarter, and we're like experiencing these new ways of thinking about training. So I think overall it is good as far as that goes. I just hope it doesn't get like too watered down and too changed.
I think many instructors have these concerns. I don't think this is uncommon. I think as this continues growing, and maybe this is now our lifetime, you know, maybe this is our kids or generation after that. But at some point, jiu-jitsu might become as big as you know, a household name, and it might be. We don't know.
So the thing is too, it's like when you're talking about like, not everyone makes it. Like maybe everyone's going to try it. And then it's like, if you were saying in the beginning, it's like, you can almost look at someone and kind of know if they're going to make it or not. Mm-hmm. And like, sometimes people surprise you, but, have you seen the movie Platoon, that Vietnam war movie, where it's like, where the guy is like asking, I think it's Sergeant Barnes, like, hey, what do you think about him? Is he going to make it? Like, is he going to start the war? And he's like, just kind of looks at him. He's like, I knew it. I knew he wasn't going to make it. And I feel like it's like that. You like look at people and they come in, you're like, oh, I don't know, man. But people surprise you. And that's also where the coach comes in, to make it an environment, to like try and help them to make it. So I think it's like, it's an amazing sport. I love doing it, but jiu-jitsu is for everyone. It's like they say, it's like, it's for everyone. But then after a few years, it's for just a few people, you know? So I think it can help grow academies. It can help spread the word, maybe get more kids involved. Different people will try it, and like, hopefully they stick with it. But I don't know if it'll ever become too watered down. You know, it's a thing where it's like, how many, I mean, now there's a lot of black belts, but it's like the percentage of the population that actually stick with jiu-jitsu long enough to do that people who have tried it, it's very, very low, you know?
And I think that's what makes it unique, to be honest with you. Even though it continues growing, even though it becoming more and more popular, in order for one to achieve a black belt, we are looking at several years. This is not happening in a year. And there are some restrictions, that more and more restrictions being put on the black belt rank, where you have to do specific things in order for you to be rewarded, which is very unlike other martial arts, right? And no judgment to those, but again, I think it's much harder.
Yes,
it is much harder in jiu-jitsu to get to black belt rank.
Yeah, but I think so. Other martial arts, they have their criteria to get the black belt too. Mm-hmm. I think what separates this is the aliveness of it. As long as we're still training a lot, you know, positional training, hard positional training, and sparring, it won't be watered down, you know, a little bit, you know, because you want, like you said, it's the coach's responsibility to help people through that. But I think that aliveness of it is what separates it from everything else, because you're not just kicking a bag, you're not just kicking a pad, you're not just doing a kata, you're putting what you've learned to the test against other people, whether, like you said, it's the people below you, the people at your level, or the people you're chasing.
Well,
I think the tough thing too is when, sorry.
Go ahead.
When sometimes there's like this thing in the academies where you, if you have a big academy, if someone wants to roll with you, or like you can't turn down a roll, it can be very hard to like, maybe you're doing good and you're, you know, but you're like an older blue belt, and you got these young guys who don't understand that that's not the guy you go hard on. You know what I mean? And like, it's hard to say no to a round. Like it takes courage to do that. Like I said, like I'm the assistant instructor at my academy, and my mom was a blue belt there. And there was like a couple of dudes who just did not understand how to roll with women, you know? And like, she was like, came to me and she's like, I feel like I can't say no to them, but they're rolling hard. Like, what do I do? I'm like, you got, I mean, we can talk to them too, but like, you got to like use your voice. And it's like, it's hard, you know, but it's like, that's another thing where it's like, you got to have a team that takes care of each other.
Leadership and culture. That's what shapes every community. It doesn't matter whether you're jiu-jitsu, politics, religion, checkers, running. It doesn't matter. Any time you have a group of people who would get together with a common goal, leadership and chemistry in the community. That's what drives it, right? And setting those boundaries is so important, right? Because I mean, luckily, your mom has voiced that. But how many people have not? How many people simply walked out and they never came back? And I'll take it farther. How many people walked out, never came back, and then talked bad about the art? Right. Because of this one single experience, right? And that is a shame, right? Situations like this shouldn't happen. Hopefully we have them less and less as we get smarter about it.
Yeah.
you know, and...
I heard somebody else say it, but you were the first person I heard say it, that if you're rolling with somebody and they get hurt, it's your fault.
Absolutely.
It's not their fault.
100%. In my opinion. I'm curious what you think about this. Before, we've been going on this for a long time, but I'm curious what you think about this. If we roll, you and I, and you get hurt, whose fault is it?
It's tough. I think it depends on the situation. But yeah, I mean, most of the times I've been hurt. Yeah, it's been, I think the other person's, I've been hurt. I have been hurt pretty bad. But I think when I've been hurt, like there were a couple of times where I think the most I've been hurt is if I let my guard down as a higher belt. And I'm like I think that's like the most dangerous person is a white belt, you know, or like if you're not controlling them to a certain extent, or like you let your guard down with someone. Like I was wrong with a purple belt at the time, but I was like, oh, I feel okay right now. I let my guard down and like, boom. And like my ankle exploded. And like, so I was like, he went for something very aggressively, but I also let my guard down. I think it depends on the situation.
But shouldn't we know as a higher belt? Shouldn't we know what the limits of the positions are? Shouldn't we know that if I go hard, you don't tap, you're gonna get hurt? Like,
right, yes.
The first time I ever, I don't even know if I was a blue belt yet, but the first time I was ever leg locked, my partner looked at me like, "Now is the time."
Yeah,
he didn't finish anything. Yeah. He was like, "Now is the time," and I was like, "Oh, okay. I've never been here before." You know, and then he explained everything to me afterwards. So had I not tapped, whose fault would it have been?
Yeah.
Right?
Yes, and I think it's important to explain to the lower belt, like, this is just so you know, like I have control. So right now I'm letting you know, like your arm would be broken right now if I didn't have control.
Yep.
Right. Like if this was another white belt and went back to this armbar, they're not going to understand.
Yep.
Right. And then I agree. In that situation is their fault. Like that they broke it. So it's like, hey, you need to know. And guys I'm close with too, like I'll joke around, like if it's a white belt I'm like friends with, and I'd be like, you better tap or I'm going to break it. You know, it's like joking around, but just like let them know, like, hey, man, like this is probably a good time to tap, and you keep it playful, you know?
Yeah. Yeah. And those lessons are important. And all this is, again, back to the leadership, back to the culture, right? Like it is, we do take responsibility for our training partner. I tell my students all the time, you cannot train jiu-jitsu without your training partners. You can't. That's it. You go home. You by yourself. Done. It's over, right? So why not take care of each other? Why not continue pushing each other? And why not continue getting better at this together, not individually? What a beautiful art. What a beautiful sport. Great conversation. Listen, we've been at this for way over an hour. My apologies for stretching this out, but such a great conversation. Well,
my pleasure.
The truth is, if I didn't talk so much, we would be way better. But it is what it is. No. It is. I know Gary thought about that. I had to voice it.
Shut up.
And then before we finish, every episode we do that. We have an interesting ending to the show. Our previous guest, which is that's OG. OG. Gigi, but as OG, all generation. Gary will introduce him in a moment. But he asked a question, and he did not know who will be answering. So it was completely questioning blind. He's passing the question to you. Gary's going to take a lead on this. Always interesting end to the conversation as we're wrapping this up.
Alexandra Genovese. Gigi. But one of the co-founders of Alliance was here, and he wants to know, how does the champion transition into a life after competition?
So fitting.
Yeah, that is something that you'll see. It can be very, very difficult when people are just chasing medals, and all of their fulfillment is from getting that medal, right? And so if they don't get it, they're heartbroken. And then when they do get it, it's when they're used to winning, it's almost like, I just needed that just to get by, you know? And then after that, like, that is a very, very hard thing for people to do. That's why you see MMA fighters fighting way past their prime, you know? And I mean, I don't know if anyone really, when you have that much passion for something, I think it's hard to replace it. Like if that is your whole goal, I think the best thing, like for me, how I supplement the thrill of competing is teaching. You know, I think just like I found a passion in that. So I think you got to find another passion, but it's hard when you're one of those guys. It's like you see those old MMA fighters. Like, dude, you need to lay down the gloves. How does this guy not understand that? But they just can't. You know what I mean? I think it's just harder than we give it credit for. But what do
you think? What specifically do you think is so hard about it? I mean, you see this, and in MMA, that's probably the most visible. or professional sports in general. It doesn't have to be MMA, but like you see basketball players or even football players, but I think they are 40 plus. He's signing. I mean, this is all over news all the time. Yeah, he's signing multi-million dollars. Just loaded, right? And one more year. Why not?
I think it depends. So with that, I wish jiu-jitsu was like that. That'd be nice. Yeah. I think
hold on. Are you saying you're not making $100 million a year? I mean, man, you're missing a boat.
But I think sometimes, like, it's maybe they're not great with money and they need to keep getting that paycheck, and then I think for maybe if money isn't a factor, it's just such a thrill, like a rush. There's like nothing like it, like competing. And I can't even imagine MMA, like jiu-jitsu competitions. Like when you win, it's like the best feeling ever. And then if you lose, it's such a low. You're like, I need to compete again. I need to get that win, And then when you win, you're like, oh, this is awesome. I need to win again. And then you get in this cycle, it's just such a thrill. So yeah, there's nothing like it. It's like, there's nothing like rolling. There's no therapy like rolling. I think there's just no thrill like competing.
Go ahead.
I was about to pivot.
Oh, well, I was going to say, because you started teaching at such a young age, do you think that's why it'll probably be an easier transition for you, rather than flipping a switch, right? You've already got that other passion ingrained in you.
Yeah, I think so. And I think, the whole time, like my goals were a little bit different. It's like if I was like teaching and it was just like, I'm teaching the kids class, but I don't really care. Like, I'm just going to be a world champion and that's it. Like maybe it'd be different, but my goals were kind of split down the middle. I was like, I want to be a great competitor. I want to be a great coach the whole time. So I think, it made that transition easier. And I think if you have the chance to coach, I think it just makes you a better competitor, a better practitioner. I've learned so much through coaching, even kids. Like you have to break it down to a point and like have it make sense to a 4-year-old, or most things, at least to a 4-year-old, we're like, what you can do. But like, if you can make it make sense to a 12-year-old and break it down step by step, or a guy who is just not getting it, like you say, hey, left hand, and his right foot goes up in the air, and like you can walk him through it step by step. I think just getting those pathways in your brain, like just reinforcing it, it's like mental drilling, So I think that makes you a better competitor. And yeah, it probably will make the transition easier. Yeah, but I'll probably be like, hopefully, I'll be a little bit like Megaton and just be out there, just still doing it when I'm that age.
30 years from now.
Well, so this is what I wanted to ask just a moment ago: is do you envisioning yourself completely giving up the competition for the sake of becoming a phenomenal instructor?
So it's definitely going to have to go on the back burner for a bit because it's like building up a school. It takes everything you have, and you have to be there for your students. And when I was competing and cutting weight a lot, like it was definitely like, it took everything I had mentally to be just a good instructor because you're draining yourself, you're stressed out, you're maybe grumpy from a weight cut, and you have to like every ounce of your mental strength has to go into being like a good instructor, being patient, So I don't, and you have to travel, you have to train hard. Like if I have 5 white belts in my class, I can't be doing competition training with them, So I think for a little bit, it'll be on the back burner. And then as I build up my academy, I'll still travel back home to like the headquarters there. Then I'll start looking to compete again. I definitely want to do it forever. I set different goals like each year, and then I just try and accomplish those goals. So right now the goal is going to be building up the academy, getting that set up, and then we'll look at competing hopefully soon.
Do you think that could be one of the reasons why a lot of competitors who have academies but they actively compete are not as successful as the guys who kind of put the competition aside and hyper focus on the business?
Yeah, I think it's hard to do both at the same time. You have to be selfish if you're a high level athlete. Like you need to be drilling, you need to be getting hard rounds in. You can't be worried about people crashing into each other in the class. You can't be worried about if someone's doing this right or this wrong. It's so hard to find a balance. Yeah.
It's who was it, Sanji? I keep bringing this up because it comes up so often. It's like I think Sanji was saying is competition is selfish act, has to be selfish, and teaching is complete opposite. It's selfless. It's not about you. It's about everybody else besides you. You're the educator. You're the leader. You're the instructor. They look up to you. You need to stand up and you need to do what's right. It's all about them. What a phenomenal, wow.
Yeah,
70 plus minutes. Wow. Wow, what a great conversation. Listen, before I have like a million questions that I want to ask, and I need to stop myself.
No, it's been a blast.
Thanks for being here. Thanks for being here. Thanks for sharing.
So
I mean, there's so much wisdom, so much. What a great story. And first of all, once again, congratulations on the black belt. Congratulations on the move to Boston. Congratulations on the academy coming down the pipe. We'll be sitting back and enjoying the view while you grind the jiu-jitsu lifestyle.
Thank you so much. Thank you. Yeah.
Where can anybody find you? If anybody wants to connect with you directly, if they want to visit you, if they want to, see your content, because you put so much content, which we didn't even talk about, where they can find you?
Yeah, so Instagram, it's my name. It's Aidan Sericolo. YouTube is the same thing. Instagram is probably the best way to contact me. And then I just released an instructional with BJJ Fanatics. So if you search in my name there, that'll pop up. So I'm really proud of that. Yeah.
Cool. Phenomenal. We'll make sure to put all the links in the show notes, as we always do. If you guys want to connect with Aidan directly, feel free to do it. And check out his Instagram, because there's tons of good content on there. He put some sick videos. That's a production of its own. So
thank you so much.
Thanks for hanging out with us. Thanks for sharing your story, your wisdom, and we'll be sitting back and watching your brand new academy get off the ground and you doing the amazing things.
Yeah, thanks for everything. Great conversation. The ones that fly by like this, I know are always going to be fun for the listeners as well. So I appreciate it, man. Thank you.
Thank you so much for having me.
All right. Peace.
Later.
Thank you for listening to RŌL Radio. If you enjoyed the show, don't forget to leave us a review and help us make the show even more amazing. For future episodes, check out our website and follow us on all major podcast platforms. Take care.